At the time when blacks in America were saying we shall overcome while being abused and taunted by the forces that wanted to maintain racial segregation, Brother Kwame advanced the slogan, Black Power. This sparked a whole new direction in the fight for human rights and equality. And embracing the global nature and human condition, Brother Kwame supported the liberation movement of oppressed people everywhere. He also became one of the leading Pan-Africanists in contemporary history.
1, 2, 3, go.
We salute you, Brother Kwame Ture. Your victory is
You walk out. Get up. You walk out.
later changed his name to Kwame Ture. His education and the participation in the struggle for human rights earned him the distinction of becoming one of the most respected and influential leaders of the 20th century.
At the time when blacks in America were singing "We Shall Overcome" while being abused and taunted by the forces that wanted to maintain racial segregation, Brother Kwame advanced the slogan, Black Power. This sparked a whole new direction in the fight for human rights and equality. And embracing the global nature and human condition, Brother Kwame supported the liberation movement of oppressed people everywhere. He also became one of the leading Pan-Africans in contemporary history.
If you're the owner of a green two-door GO, your lights are on, license plate number 334 GGC, green two-door GO, your lights are on. give the Youth Cultural Center another round of applause. Some of y'all felt like dancing. You came on up here. Nobody would say anything to you. Who's family? Halisi Lester will now come up and give us the dinner instructions. I know everybody's like ready to eat, so Halisi.
All right, we're going to do this one table, like table by table. First, though, we're going to have the band go, since they have to perform right after dinner, and then we'll serve the head table, and then we'll proceed around the room, table by table. So basically, when someone comes to your table and asks you to rise, then at that point you know.
Available in most of your record stores all around the country. And it's here at the front table in purchase over here. And a lot of people don't realize that right here in St. Louis is one of the more renowned and best recognized reggae groups in the whole country and around the world. And this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you St. Louis's own Infra Red Rockers.
Yes. Well, give thanks and praise. I've been informed of a slight oversight earlier. We also want to hear a lot more big up to my 80s nieces, Sarah and Angie, for being in the youth group as well. Stand up, Sarah and Angie, let me see. Yes, we give thanks. We got so much things to say about the man from St. Louis. So much things to say about the man from St. Louis. What we're talking about is a man who gave us some insight to our roots. Mama Africa. Go! August 1887 was a great day. A great day in St. John's Bay. In the truth of this world was born a man who knows a man. Found his son. It's an Africa. For Africa. shout his name. So loud, yeah. Marcus Garvey, hit him up, show the world we're from.
Break it down. Let's check.
Do you remember? Oh, Marcus We'll never forget his
digestion. So what this is not just audience participation. You know, you participated in that dinner plate, so now we want like after dinner participation. And this will help you digest that. You know what I'm saying? We just want something like call and response. So repeat after me. Try it again. Together. Stand on your rights. program is great, and, you know, infrared performing is like absolutely fantastic. And that bass player is just out of this world. He's remarkable, you know. Now, how you can get a hold of infrared? It's right over there against that south wall. The CD is available. The selections that we're playing for you today are available on that CD. Thank you. This next one's entitled Refugee or Suicide. Check this.
If you ever looked around the world and observed the situation of the refugees in South Africa, in Rwanda, in Bosnia, India, all over the world, a refugee situation. Yes, so this one is for the refugees.
much. Just for the record, can we hear that round of applause again? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I believe that was stronger than the first time of a round of applause. You know, I just had for the record. You know what I mean? Because the whole point is we got to do it right. Right? If you ain't gonna do it right, don't do it at all. It makes sense to you? On the left side, does that make sense? In the middle, does that make sense? On the right side, does that make sense? If you ain't gonna do it right, don't do it at all. I'm telling you. Yeah. Believe it or not, though, there are people here in the world, upon the earth, that do everything right. And they've made no mistakes just yet. I'm one. I'll think about that. Anyway, this next song, it was just a lead up to an original entitled Let's Do It Right Africans. Check this out.
have to quickly refocus. Some of y'all that was tapping in your feet and shoes not on and all that other good stuff. Let's refocus. While the rockers are still on stage, I'd like to bring up folks, many of them, a couple of them have come from different parts of the country to make a very, very special presentation. And the exciting thing about this is, y'all, is that this is a lot of different things coming together. It's the whole 7 principles thing coming together. It's the whole parenting thing. It's the whole village raising the children thing. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to Khaleesi.
Thank you. I guess I can speak for all of us. First of all, for those of you who may or may not know, we are the children of the rockers, so to speak. And I can speak for the children of the rockers. I can speak for all of us in saying that we are very, very proud of our parents. We want to present them with something, a small token of our appreciation, a plaque. And it reads, "We salute and congratulate the Infrared Rockers on the release of their first ever CD. Besides being the best reggae band outside of Jamaica, thank you for being great parents and role models. We owe you the world. January 30th, 1999, Amili Azizi Khaleesi Nyambi." Thank you.
All right.
Money.
And also to add to them, you know, over the years and just being there for us and being good role models. I mean, we remember these songs when we were downstairs, you know, and then we were playing and just coming up through the ceiling. So, and we'd also like to, you know, give a token of our appreciation to someone else that's very special, and that's right along there, being there all the time too as well. And we wanted to present Jamala with program before, like any of the OBS celebrations. There was a song called Tomorrow, and I was trying to get us all together so we could sing it. And Khaleesi was like, "No, we don't want to sing, it's too corny." So I'm just going to sing a little bit of the refrain, and I kind of changed it a little bit, so I just wanted to sing it right quick for them. Okay. We walked in your footsteps, we followed your stride. You set a good example. We have hope and pride, 'cause tomorrow is what you make it to be.
All right now.
We the people are the makers of history. We love you.
I know she has late footage, so I just want to acknowledge the presence of the controller for the city of St. Louis, Darlene Green. I don't know if she's here. The Honorable Green. She wants to acknowledge like that with Percy Green and Norman Say, but she moved on out. So,
I knew that was you.
so the cultural presentation does continue, and now we're going to get deep into the heart with some poetry by Sharif Zakir. Sharif, I'd like to welcome you.
Change is gone.
Before I start, I have permission from my elders to speak. Nobody got it? The piece that I'm about to read is one dedicated to the memory of Kwame Ture. It's called Beyond the Gates. There is a place for the spirit of the revolutionaries who will sacrifice their life for a dream. So for those who will rejoice by lifting their voice, try to remember the melodies in those hymns you sing. There is a place where swords remain raised for those who answered their callings, and the gun barrels still in the blaze in honor of our warrior who fought and fallen. There is a meeting for souls beyond heaven's gate, where the mourners of jihad can go to congregate, where cool water quench and fresh fruits fulfill, a place where the most beaten of souls will surely be healed, and the blessed struggle will undoubtedly be forgiven for whatever earthly sin. It's a place where the pains and sufferings have ceased, and any bleeding have come to an end. It's a place for our warrior, our melody, our soldier for the oppressed. It's heaven for the voice that'll make the choice to pay the price of freedom when they know the price of freedom was death. Unimaginably beautiful, so says the prophets. The origin of the never-ending life. A place for the soul whose ultimate goal is to live, fight, and die for what they know to be right. A place for the courageous, for the just. A place for all that seek heaven's gate. Destiny for those who's willing to fight, even though there's a good chance all hell may break. Asante Sana.
We are enjoying ourselves so far. Alright. We're almost at the point where our guest speaker will be speaking. Suniata will do the honor of introducing our guest speaker. So Suniata, come to the podium.
I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker today. Our theme is renewing the Black Freedom Agenda. And as you know, there's only two ways to renew a movement. One is by the infusion of new blood, people who were not previously active. The other is by bringing in a new generation. One of the questions that activists have wrestled with is this question of how do we motivate a younger generation? How do we inspire those who have yet to join the struggle to get involved? At the Black Radical Congress in June, there was a dialogue between veteran activists and younger activists who were just beginning to get involved in the movement. And the question was, what event motivated you to join the struggle? What critical incident inspired you to get involved? So while it wasn't quite an older veteran activist and a young person, I asked that question of Ajamu Dillahunt, our keynote speaker. And he told me that he was a student at Bradley University during the Civil Rights era. And he was going to visit a friend one night, and he noticed that there were a bunch of black people sitting in this particular establishment, and that there were so many that it spilled out onto the curb. And as time went on, the crowd grew, and they set in the middle of the street and blocked traffic. And he said that event started him and got him involved. Now the curious thing is that that event is probably the only such activity that has ever happened in Black history. During that period, we attempted to desegregate movie theaters, to desegregate libraries, public schools. But Brother Ajamu and them were desegregating, integrating a white barbershop. Who can say what will motivate us to get involved? C.L.R. James, the great historian from Trinidad, has said that the most important thing about a leader is what they represent. Not who they are, but what they represent. Brother Dillahunt represents the most conscious element in the Black liberation movement. He represents the brothers and sisters in the South who compose the majority of the African American nation. He represents the Black working class. Brother Ajamu has been involved for several decades in the movement. He is playing a leading role in that exciting new organization, the Black Radical Congress. He and his wife, Rukia, are leaders of the Black Workers for Justice in North Carolina. Brother Ajamu is what we call a long-distance runner. He hasn't been in it for the short, quick victory, the publicity. He's been in it for the long haul. He has been involved in developing and implementing new strategies of struggle. He has led in trying to forge very strong and solid links between the two most important social movements in this country, the African American liberation movement and the labor movement. Brother Ajamu has worked to refocus the interests of the Black liberation movement on to the concerns of the Black working class and poor majority. At the same time, he's worked to redirect the labor movement toward organizing the unorganized, toward organizing those people at the bottom of the pay scale. He has worked to bring about a vision in which this old view in which organizers, particularly labor organizers, they come in and they do a blitzkrieg and they try to get a lot of people signed up and involved quickly, and then they move on to the next city. Or in the Black movement, we talk about event activity, where you organize a major event, and then after that's done, there's a lull. But he's been involved in day-to-day organizing and trying to get people to understand that sometimes it's the slow, the long, the hard way of building that puts an emphasis on local communities, that puts an emphasis on developing leadership where previously people weren't involved. And I guess to sum up, the four things that's most critical to understand about the message, the life, the contributions of Brother Dillahunt, is that he's committed himself to organizing the Black majority, the poor and working class majority. He's committed himself to building links between the Black freedom movement and the labor movement. He's committed himself to reorienting, to developing new strategies for both the labor movement and the Black freedom movement. And for us to remember that the majority of Black people have and do now reside in the South, and that building a strong movement in the South is central, in fact key, to the liberation of Black people and the transformation of America. Unity. Let me now bring you Brother Ajamu Dillahunt.
Thank you, Brother Sundiata. Good evening, brothers and sisters. First, I want to thank OBS for inviting me here. Good brothers and sisters from the Infrared, Rockers, for Sundiata, of course, and Helen, their great hospitality and new friendship that's growing. And of course to my dear friend, the esteemed Jamala Rogers, just for being on the planet. I bring you greetings from the Black Workers for Justice in North Carolina. And in many ways, we see your organization, OBS, as a sister or brother organization to ours. And although over the years we haven't had the kind of contact that we like to have, we feel that we're very much in the same fight. And we're glad to know that there are folks here in St. Louis who have resisted and will continue to resist white supremacy and the effects of capitalist exploitation. You know, I want to say something about 19 years, y'all. 19 years is a long time. It's a long time. And you got to realize that, right? And, you know, the political and social forces in this country weigh in against you when you're in this kind of struggle. This is not a social organization. This is not an entertainment organization. This is a serious organization. And to have this kind of longevity is something that we rarely see. In fact, I would argue that we should treat black liberation organizations like we treat dog years. You know what I'm saying? That is, for every year of life in the black liberation movement, we should assign them 5 years. Okay, 5 years. And so that would put OBS around the 100-year mark, almost. And I know sometimes the struggle is, the cadre, the members, the supporters feel like it's been 100 years. But certainly, that's the way things are. And I know that sometimes when you're involved in struggle and you become used to an organization, you almost start to take it for granted. It's here, they'll do it, they'll be around. And you almost minimize the work that's going on. And I like to come from the outside to say, y'all are really doing it, keep on doing it, we're proud of you, we need you. I apologize for not being able to make the weather warmer or to get Carnahan to commute another death sentence. But I tell you what, I sure hope the Pope would get busy on some other computations, okay? In fact, he needs to get to Pennsylvania, because in Pennsylvania, the weather is cold, and there's a need for an immediate commutation of a sentence. And I'm tired of all of these ad hoc commutations. We need to commutate the sentences for everybody on death row in this country now. You know, the country has been preoccupied with the impeachment hearings and so on, and some people are paying close attention, others really don't give a doggone about what's going on. But there are a lot of other things that are happening away from Washington, maybe not on the same scale, but, you know, bear some attention. And I'd like to just raise a few things tonight. On Thursday night, Black Entertainment Television had a marvelous program. Did anybody in here see it? All right. Yes, sir. Tabitha smile. And I think that that program is going to go a tremendous way to bringing about black people's awareness about Cuba, and will contribute to ending the criminal and immoral embargo on the people of Cuba. Brother Tab just put together a crew. They went down to Cuba with a delegation led by Randall Robinson, and they said as their purpose, they wanted to look at the condition of black folks. They wanted to see what was the impact of the embargo on black folks on the island nation of Cuba. Randall Robinson, Camille Cosby, Janetta Cole, Danny Glover, Walter Mosley, Bill Fletcher, Bill Lucy from AFSCME, and Gabe McDougal, amongst a number of others. And you know, in the recent past, we've had some reason to be kind of frustrated and disappointed by some of our black middle class leadership. Am I saying something? No, that's not. But I tell you, on Thursday night, they were shining. They were shining. They made us proud. On this tip, they represented. Camille Cosby said the embargo sucks. She said it sucks. She said that it's based on racism. And then Sister President Janetta Cole, she came on the scene, and she said that the money that's sent to Cuba by white Cubans to other white Cubans, those who are here in Miami, Jersey City, various other places, right, is creating a problem. Wherein blacks who stayed with the revolution don't get any money that's remitted to them from wealthy people. And it's creating disparity on the island. A disparity that's creating further social problems, right? It shows you what the problems are with the embargo. These two sisters were smoking, I tell you, it was wonderful. Danny Glover talked about the vision that's out there, the vision of free health care, universal free health care. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. He talked about free public education, right? The elimination of illiteracy on this small island. He got the vision, and he was proud of it, and he talked about it, right? I think, brothers and sisters, friends, we need to seize this opportunity to step up our opposition to this embargo. You need to get that tape. You need to show it in your home. You need to take it to work, take it to your schools, your churches. We've got to step up the activity on this. On a smaller scale, there's something else that happened in the past week or so, and it's the issuing of the Malcolm X stamp. Anybody seen it? Yes. All right. When the Postal Service issued the Kwanzaa stamp, I know a lot of black activists were enraged about this. They felt like the Postal Service had co-opted one of our institutions. And they were even more enraged with Ryan Karenga because he participated in the issuing of the stamp and whatnot. And I don't know, maybe it's co-optation, but I tell you what, right, it's further popularized the celebration of Kwanzaa. In this way, more and more people who we activists maybe couldn't get to, right, are getting a chance to look at the Kwanzaa stamp. Well, you know, after the Kwanzaa stamp, there was an attempt to get a Paul Robeson stamp, and that failed. A big campaign, hundreds of thousands of signatures, and it failed. And lo and behold, we read about, and to me it was quite secret, about Malcolm X, a stamp for Brother Malcolm. And so I just want to share a personal note about it. I, like many others, for years wore a t-shirt with Malcolm X on a stamp on it. And I sold it to people. Y'all might have seen some of me in St. Louis. And we were proud of this. And the t-shirt came from the line from the rap group Public Enemy that basically said, I ain't never seen one of my heroes on a stamp. Okay? So we had Malcolm on a stamp. But I mean, it was agitation, you know what I'm saying? We weren't even talking about a postal stamp. And here it shows up. Well, I don't know if Brother Sundiata said it, you know, he said so many good things, I kind of lost where I was on that, but I am a postal worker. I've been a postal worker for 17 years, and for most of that time I worked in mail processing, moving the mail, in the plants and all that. And it just so happened that 3 weeks ago I decided to become a window clerk. And started training on the window the day that the stamp was issued to the public. Let me tell you. Right? And it's a beautiful stamp for those of you who have seen it. And the reactions of the people, right, had me filled up all day long. You had some people that came in and asked for the stamp, you know, and I broke into a big grin. And then you had other people who didn't ask for it, but, you know, I sure enough pulled their coat. You know, like, we got some Malcolm X stamps here, right? You know? And they wanted those stamps, right? And most people who bought this block of stamps, 20 in a book, said, give me another 20 of something else, because I'm going to save these things. And I'm going to mail, you know, my mail with something else. Right? They had that. Right? But one thing really moved me. A sister came with a young son. I guess he was 10 or 11 years old. And they planned this. She had him ask for the Malcolm X stamp. That thing moved me. And I was proud to sell him the stamp. It was a wonderful occasion. And then, of course, you got white customers who came in. And if you know what's happening with the Postal Service now, you got a new stamp, an H stamp that represents 33 cents. They haven't printed any new denominations yet, except for Malcolm. So a lot of people got a strange thing with stamps. They don't want they want numbers on them. I don't know why. If you can mail it, you can mail it. Right? But they said, well, do you have something with numbers on it? And I said, yeah. We have a Malcolm X thing. And as things would be, some people say, oh no, that's okay, that's okay. But then there were actually white customers who said, that would be fine. That would be fine. Which also said something about where people are, and of course made me wonder who they were, what they were like, and what they thought. The other event that is passed unnoticed really is kind of specific to North Carolina. And maybe people like Sundiato, historians, and others of you in the room may know about it. But it was the centennial of the Wilmington Massacre. Okay, November 10th, 1898, there was a massacre. And in 1898, there was a coalition of black Republicans and white populists. They came together and called themselves fusionists. They held statewide office in North Carolina for at least 4 years. And they ran on a program of free elections, popular control of local government, and regulations against the excesses of monopoly capitalism that was developing at that time. These were fusionists, and they captured the governorship, they captured the state legislature, and many, many, many local offices. Right? In Wilmington, they had 3 black aldermen, a justice of peace, a deputy clerk of court, the superintendent of streets, even had the coroner's office. That's how bad they were. They occupied numerous other offices. And remember, this is after Reconstruction, the defeat of Reconstruction in 1970. This is 1898 that they were able to build this. Well, let me tell you, their crackers went crazy. They were engaged in a year-long campaign to rid the state of what they call a plague. And one of the leaders, Colonel Wardell, said that we will never surrender to a ragged raffle of Negroes, even if we have to choke the current of the Cape Fear with carcasses. And the Cape Fear River is the river that flows from the Atlantic Ocean inland up through Wilmington. 2 days before the massacre, they stole the elections. Told black people, if you show up at the polls, we're going to kill you. And they did show up at the polls with guns and intimidated people and managed to win those offices that were being stood for at that time. And then they marched through the black community and burned it down and shot people. And the brothers and sisters who defended themselves with arms were overcome. They couldn't prevail. They burned down the only black daily press in the country at that time. Black Daily Press, 1898 in Wilmington. Okay? They banished politicians. 1,400 people had to leave town. And the count on the death toll is really unknown. Estimates conservatively from 70 people, which we know ain't true, up to 300 people, who the descendants of people who lived at that time said they were 300 people that were killed. And that following Sunday, a white minister from the pulpit said, "We have taken a city, to God be the praise." Can you imagine? But the lessons were rich, and we should be clear that we can't take any comfort in any victories that we get in 1898 or in 1998. Don't be comfortable, right? And you gotta understand the power and the motives behind white supremacy and their willingness and their ability to take it back. And in fact, we have to understand that they are preparing to take it back. Up in the mountains, in the desert, in back rooms, everywhere. And all of us in this room need to be concerned about that. The massacre consolidated white power, and it hung over our state for many, many years. And we would argue that even the Wilmington 10 struggle in 1971, right, arose out of that brought Ben Chavis into national prominence and leadership. Directly out of that, because people understood and remembered the Cape Fear incident. But I would also argue that it didn't set us back, and this is what's important to know, not to be afraid, but to be prepared. Because it's also the state where Robert Williams in Monroe, North Carolina in the 1960s put together groups of veterans who had training in military tactics to protect the civil rights movement that was in place at that time. So we know how to deal with these things when and if we have to. Right? These events are part of the Southern landscape and legacy, and we function in it every day. The majority of African Americans in this country, 53%, live in the South. The South has 28% of the U.S. population and 35% of its poverty. The super exploitation of African American workers and the oppression in their communities in the South consolidates the anchor of a racist system of national oppression faced by African Americans to various degrees in the entire country, we believe. And black women workers are the most exploited and oppressed under this system. Are you surprised?
No.
But even white workers are held hostage to the system, y'all. Because in the South, they make less than white workers who work in similar places outside of the South. So there's even a margin of corporate exploitation from the labor of Southern white workers. They just need to understand that. As of last year, the South had a $1.9 trillion total gross state product, making it the fourth largest economy in the world. I didn't say in the country, I said in the world. This is an important region, right? And we are feeling the profound effects of globalization in ways that might surprise you. I think most people, when they think of globalization, they think of U.S. corporations going somewhere else. That's the conception of globalization, right? But corporations all over the world are going wild. They're on a rampage. And thus you find in the United States and in the South, as First Union Bank has reported, that the Southeast is far and away the leader in attracting interest from overseas countries for close to half of all new facilities that are built in the U.S. by foreign countries during the 1990s. It's the South. They offer tax breaks, revenue bonds, foreign trade zones, utilities, roads, training and research from universities, anything to bring them in, right? But also the promise of cheap labor, which they want to say is docile. They won't use that word no more, but it's a friendly work environment, right? And they mean that there aren't many unions there, right? We also have an increase in the migration of workers from Latin America and the Caribbean into the South. And it's intensified the competition for jobs. And it's created not now a two-tier wage system, but a three-tier wage system that the working class has to contend with now. And that's on our agenda. And it's also given rise to conflicts amongst working peoples, not just black workers and white workers, but Latino workers and black workers, and white workers and Latino workers. We've got a lot of work cut out for us. And one of the things we're doing, and I want to leave this with you, is that we're supporting a boycott of Mount Olive Pickles, the Farm Labor Organizing Committee, which is organizing Latino farm workers, is trying to negotiate a contract with an employer there who refuses to negotiate. And so they are organizing a boycott of Mount Olive Pickles. Now, I don't know if y'all pickle folk up here. And his sister had some Valdassic pickles at the crib today. But Mount Olive is a popular pickle company. But we want to help them. This is our way of building unity to Latino workers, right, in terms of winning a contract and moving forward. And it would be a victory for organizing in the South. Our main work in this period is to assist in organizing public employees on the university campuses. We have a large university system. And most of these employees are predominantly black. They earn poverty wages and have very little protections on the job. And state law prohibits collective bargaining for public employees. We believe this is a violation of human rights. But we also know it's a legacy of slavery and the social control of blacks. So we fight to unionize these workers. We fight for meet and confer language to give us some opportunity to deal with the employer. And we fight eventually to change the laws. But brothers and sisters, the conditions of our people in the South, while they have specific kinds of features, is all in the context of what we face as African Americans across the nation. And there are two trends that I think we live with daily everywhere that we have to deal with. The growing economic disparity and exploitation and the creeping police state. Let me just say a couple of things that you probably heard before, but I just want to repeat them in terms of what this disparity is like. 1% of the population controls 40% of the wealth. The top 10% of the population controls 70% of the wealth. And the other 90%, and that includes y'all up in here tonight, I'm sure, right, only control 30% of the wealth. Is that fair? But it ain't just about fairness. And of course, black people have to compete for that 30%. And white supremacy and white skin privilege have put us on the short end of that fight. African Americans, Latinos, single parent households, the working class and poor people have a quality of life that's drastically different from that 1%, but even that 10% of folks, and even the other folks fighting for that 30% that's out there. This is the world's richest nation. It has the greatest income disparity, though. Over 1 in 9 persons in the labor force in 1993 were living at the poverty level. And 8.22 million workers fall in the category of the working poor. I mean, I always thought that was a contradiction in terms. If you're working, how are you going to be poor? Or why should you be poor? But we have people who work every day, 8, 10 hours, who are considered poor by any standard, whether it's the standards of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or whether by it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or just what we know to be true, that we are poor. And yet CEOs like Mike Eisner from Disney can earn $575 million a year. These leeches have no shame. No shame. No shame. But the Democrats, for obvious reasons, won't challenge the situation. And if the truth be told, most of the black leadership today are silent on this question. They're silent. They won't say a word about it. And so it's left to Jim Hightower, who some of you may know, a populist political leader, former Secretary of Agriculture in Texas, and a radio commentator, to raise these questions. He said, a devastating class war is raging in America's countryside. The corporate media doesn't cover it, and you can bet that candidates of both major parties will studiously avoid any mention of it, because this is not a class confrontation in which the many are menacing the wealthy few. This class struggle, y'all, and I don't care what y'all heard before about how bad that is or shouldn't be said, it is a reality, and we have to face up to it and what its implications are. And these corporations are all over the place. They're invading public education. Y'all got a big public education struggle here right now in front of you. And goodness knows the corporations in there, why are they in there? They've got something to gain from this. They are trying to prepare, right, the youth that we heard today to work in their workplaces for low wages. That's all they're preparing them for, and they want some control over that education. Maybe a few managers get trained or whatever, but they got interest in it. And goodness knows they're all over the sports field, all over. You'll pass by your stadium, I don't know the name of it, but every corporation in the country got their name up on there. All of them. Now, maybe y'all are unique because the other places in the country is only one corporation that got the thing, right? Ericsson Stadium and so on. The names are all over uniforms and sport gear. And many black athletes today who are looking to get paid, and we understand that, right? They aid and abet this madness. We, in North Carolina, got a particular attitude with Michael Jordan. Particular attitude with somebody who graduated from the University of North Carolina, who was a multi-millionaire who will not give a nickel to the Black Cultural Center because he thinks it will exclude people of other races. The line of the university opposition, not even the reality. It's a cultural center for everyone, but he won't give a dime. So we don't like Brother Michael, the great player that he is. Yeah. But I'm going to say something about Shaquille O'Neal. He's rumored to say, I'm tired of hearing about money, money, money. I just want to play the game, drink Pepsi, and wear Reebok. Where's Tommy Smith and John Carlos and Harry Edwards, y'all? But then we got Exxon and Mobil, we got BP and Amoco, we got Daimler, Chrysler, and Ford, Volvo. The list of mergers goes on. And Every time there's a merger, somebody loses a job. But somebody don't mean just one person. It means thousands of people are losing jobs. Consolidation, reorganization, jobs are lost. And this globalization with these mergers, I don't care what people say, I believe we're still in the era of imperialism, with the concentration of capital into the hands of the few. And we shouldn't forget this, about like some new period, like, you know, the world has changed in such a fundamental way. This change is getting worse, but it's the same essence, the same basis that we need to deal with. There'll be more mergers, and we've got to fight. We've got to fight these jokers every way that we can, because they're setting the agenda for the ruling class in this country. And we believe that agenda is poverty, incarceration, and genocide. And so that brings us to the police state and the control and incarceration. And again, please forgive me if I share with you numbers that you heard before, but I gotta do it. 1.8 million people in prison. 1,000 new prisons since 1980 at the cost of tens of billions of dollars. Half of all inmates are black. 70% people of color. 1 out of 14 black male adults are in the penitentiary. 1 out of 3 African American males in their 20s are in the system at some level. Court, probation, in the joint, or whatever, but are connected to the system. And for those who want to argue that black men, black youth are an endangered species, you should know that the fastest growing population in prisons in this country is African American women.
Amen.
It's everybody. It's everybody. Does it make you mad?
Yeah.
More prison guards than teachers are being hired and trained right now. And there was a study, the Correctional Association of New York and the Justice Policy Institute did a study on New York last year. And a couple of things that they revealed that are important to know. Over the last 10 years in New York, $761 million were added to the New York prison budget, while spending for higher education was cut by $615 million. Okay. As Manny Marble has said when he responded to this thing, he said, it's harder to attend college now and easier to go to jail.
Amen.
That's what it is. Over 34,000 blacks and 22,000 Latinos are in the prison system in New York State. But only 27,000 blacks and 17,000 Latinos are in the State University of New York. Look at that. Look at that. In terms of degrees that were offered, bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and doctor's degrees, 4,054 African Americans got degrees in 1997. But there are 4,700 African Americans that entered the prison system on drug offenses in the same year. In the same year. It's crazy. And you know, there's a ritual. Today is Saturday, I guess. When I travel, I get lost, but I'm almost sure it's Saturday. And tomorrow is Sunday. And where I come from, there's 2 rituals that go on, and I would suspect you got them rituals right here too. Folk are going to church tomorrow, and then they're going to the penitentiary to visit their relatives and their children, their friends. Does that happen here in St. Louis too? It's a ritual. The U.S. spends more than any other nation in the world. We've got 5 million people incarcerated, and the California population in the prisons greater than Great Britain, Germany, Singapore, and the Netherlands. Mumia Abu-Jamal calls the prisons the largest growing public housing tract in the country. You hear that? The largest, fastest growing public housing tract. And then there's privatization. Companies are making money out of it. Right here, you're a big employer right here in town, TWA. Got inmates doing reservations for them. Yes, that's right. That's right, there's money to be made. And we know it's all about poverty. A 1995 study said that 45% of state prison inmates were unemployed at the time of arrest. The rest reported incomes of less than $10,000. Well, tell you what, there it is. There it is. It's poverty. So what are we supposed to do about this mess, y'all? Well, of course, we need to organize and we need to fight back. This is a given, we know that. And you've been doing it here. But we also need an agenda. And having an agenda is fundamental to building any movement. Simply put, it's a plan, it's a list of things that we must do. Early in the Black Radical Congress process that Sundiata talked about, Brother Manny Marble proposed that we adopt a freedom agenda. And he said it's to concentrate on a political program that sums up the objective needs and subjective aspirations of the poor and working masses of black people. It also is a program that links the black struggle with other struggles, and it's designed to be widely distributed and adopted by the masses. And the BRC is working on that, and we hope that a draft will be voted on and adopted at our next meeting in April to present to you. But there are two compelling reasons why we have to have a freedom agenda. And the first one is that there needs to be an alternative to the growing number of black conservative voices. And it seemed like, you know, I ain't but 52 years old, and I thought I never would reach this point where we talking about black conservatives. But it's a trend, a big trend right now. And they're giving us solutions to the problems, right, that just don't make sense. They're blaming us, right? Or they think that, you know, if we get ourselves together, if we just atone, everything will be all right. Yeah. Right? Or that black capitalism, small business, entrepreneurship will do it for us. Yeah. It will save the masses of our people, right? Or that even a particular religion might do it. If we just knuckle down and study and follow it, that we may be able to go on. That's right. And on and on and on and on and on with these conservative kind of solutions. We need a loud and clear voice to challenge this and clear up this confusion. And the Black Radical Congress and a Black Freedom Agenda can do that, must do that, and we think will do that. But it's also a basis for diverse forces coming together with different ideological perspectives and different organizational history. And it ain't no secret in this room that our movement has gone through many, many years of turmoil, infighting, splits, differences, and that's not to say that we're any different than any movement around the world, by the way. Understand that. It's not some kind of genetic thing. Right? It's politics and it's class. It's politics and it's class. But we know we gotta come together, right? And I think we got a wake-up call in these last 2 or 3 years. And as Abdullah Khalima, one of the conveners of the BRC, said, he said as simple as this: people unite when they have to. Yeah. That's all. You know, we would like to think that they unite because it's the right thing to do, and we think it is. But what compels them, what forces them is conditions. And we have to unite now. And a Black Freedom Agenda can serve as the glue to bring us together. But of course, in the long run, the glue that brings us together is the masses. It's everyone in this room, and the hundreds of thousands of people, and later on millions of people around this country who grasp the Black Freedom Agenda for themselves. That's what's going to be the real glue. We need an agenda to keep our bearings. You're out here 19 years, there's things that kind of try to push you off course. People, events, all kinds of things. It will keep our bearings. It'll help us to evaluate who are our friends and who are our enemies, right? Every November, right, people come around knocking on your door asking for your support, right? Yeah. Where do you stand on freedom agenda? What's your views on this? It helps us to evaluate who we align ourselves with and what we do. And it's also a tool for self-evaluation. I know Sister Jamala's going to give a State of the Organization report. It's going to be based on something, right? It's going to be based on what they set out to do. And they're going to evaluate it. And a Freedom Agenda can help us to evaluate it. We can do our own State of Black America evaluation based on how we fare against a Freedom Agenda. And lastly, it provides national cohesion in the early periods of building an organization. We got people all over the country who want something different, who want to fight back. But organizationally, we are not yet together. We will be, and we're doing things to come together. But until we do, it has us on the same page. In Oakland, in Houston, in Philadelphia, in Ann Arbor, in Raleigh, in Atlanta, all over the country. It provides cohesion, and we gotta have that. And the Freedom Agenda will do it. It'll help us here, and I just think of, you know, what I've learned about St. Louis since I've been here, right? The Freedom Agenda we're proposing deals with free, quality, public education. So on Tuesday, you know, you got to deal with that question, don't you? This tax thing. And I don't have a position on it, right? But I know that it's critical that you tackle this issue. And of course, that referendum is not the end. It seems to me from what I've read, it's just the beginning of some struggling that you got to do. But if you evaluate what you do there up against this freedom agenda that calls for free public education, calls for an anti